Well, I think that it's your bedtime and we should do whatever we need to do to get you to fall asleep. Don't you think so? Hmm? Hmm? Yeah. So, what are you doing right now? Are you in bed already? Hmm. You're taking way, way too long to answer, sweetheart. You're not in bed. Well, that's step number one, isn't it? What are you doing? What are you doing right now? Where are you? You're going to your bed. Very good girl, sweetie. That's obviously step one. And I am going to win. And I'm going to make sure that you fall asleep and you get really, really good rest. You don't think I'm going to do it, do you? No, you don't. This is. You're going to give me a chance? Yeah. Okay. I like that. All I need is one chance. You're in bed, just where I want you. Perfect. And what do you wear to bed? You got PJs? Do they have like, I don't know, unicorns on them? Plain white PJs. I thought you'd be more fancy with your PJ selection. Mm-hmm. Plain white. I have boxers that have pink donuts on them because I like to dress very extravagantly, but I don't want people to see it, so it's just for bed. Pink donuts. Mm-hmm. No, no pink donuts. Okay. You got your white PJs on, so you're ready for bedtime. Mm-hmm. Do you sleep with your feet sticking out of the blankets? Or do you like cocoon yourself in your blankets? Or no blankets? What's your go-to sleepy move? Mm-hmm. It's not that cold. So do you do no blanket or no blanket at all? Not even. Oh my gosh. Mm. Okay. Don't want to get sweaty. That's fine. All right. Well, put your head on the pillow. Close your eyes. And have you done this? Have you done this already? Good. Great. We have everything we need to get you to fall asleep. Now we just need you to fall asleep. So on the count of three, I want you to fall asleep, okay? 1, 2, 3, go. Are you sleeping? No. I really thought that would work. I don't know. I don't know. Felt like that would work. I don't know. No. Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna have to try something else. I don't know. Have I done what before? Usually I just start talking about like something really boring. Like I'll talk about like a philosophy book and then I'll go into the details and they'll be like, and then eventually I'll get like into some like really super specific subject and I'll be like, what do you think about that? And then I just hear snoring. That's it. Just use my super monotone voice and something very, very boring to just lull people to sleep. They don't even realize it's happening because I'm speaking so passionately about whatever it is. And they're just like, well, I'm going to try. I'm going to try to hang on here, even though I don't care. And then they're just out, drifting off to dreamland. So maybe that's what I have to do here. Maybe I have to find something super boring that you don't care about. It's not good, but if I talk about something super interesting, then you're going to be engaged. You're going to be thinking about it. So, what? What are your thoughts on this? I'm the professional sleep artist here, okay? Tell me, what are you thinking about, sweetheart? Okay. Philosophy's not going to be fun. Pick another boring subject. You take philosophy. So we did all of this circling to arrive back where we started at philosophy. Okay. Well, since we did a big loop anyway, maybe we'll talk about this very interesting philosophy book that I read, and it's called, ironically enough, I Am a Strange Loop. And I forget the name of the author, but he's a very smart guy. And he did a bunch of very smarty pants stuff in mathematics. It's actually his specialty. And he has a very deep understanding of the world of mathematics and a lot of esoteric ideas within it. And so he wrote this book like 20 years ago, not related to the book, well, somewhat related to the book that I'm talking about. It was the first version of this book, right? And this book killed it. I think he was called like Escher Bach and something. And it kind of like talked about how mathematics has a bunch of corollaries for life in general. And this book gave him a lot of fame. He was lauded for it, and he was able to go on and enjoy a very good career at a university, doing very cool stuff for a long time. And so 20 years later, they're talking about like doing like a 20-year anniversary of the book or something like that. Like they were asking him to write like a short script about it, or some sort of excerpt about it. And he started writing, and then he kept writing, and then it kind of turned into a second book, basically, because he realized that a lot of people misinterpreted and misunderstood the first book. Like he felt like people didn't get the point of it, and he was lauded for this book. He was celebrated. Everybody loved it. It earned him this amazing career, and it bothered him because he felt like people didn't really get the point, which has got to be frustrating, right? Like you're celebrated for this thing, and you feel like people are celebrating you, but they don't really understand it in the way that you wanted people to understand it. So he ends up writing this thing about his other book, and then it kind of turns into this whole new book in of itself, and he sees this as an opportunity to kind of clarify his past book. And so he ends up writing this book, and he titles it I Am a Strange Loop. And the general idea is kind of, well, what makes a person a person? I think that's the question that this book tries to answer. What is so interesting about humans that make us different from apes, from dogs, from dragonflies, from ants, from dirt, from grass, from all of the things that we see around us? And he starts off in the world of mathematics, which is, I felt, super interesting, because I didn't understand a lot of it. I'm a bit math dumb, but I tried to. I dug into it as much as I could. And he talks about how there are these properties within mathematics which are true, but they can't be proven, right? So there is this script in mathematics that was developed as this way of unifying the linguistics of mathematics across many disciplines, and it's called Principia Mathematica, right? And it was this groundbreaking esoteric thing, and it's where we get a lot of those mathematical symbols that get used across lots of disciplines to create things like proofs. And within the development of Principia Mathematica, what happened is another smart mathy guy afterwards looked at the script and started using it to develop these proofs that were true, but they couldn't be proven using the symbols developed in the script. And so it created this sort of like weird loopy situation. And I don't understand the math enough to like get into it, but the point of drawing from this was to show these very sort of practical understandings in a very practically driven field of how there can be some strange parts of life that are true, but we can't like prove them. And I think that's kind of the point that he was trying to get at when he started off with this, is that this is a very hard science. Math is like the foundation for figuring out like how things work and communicating things. And there was these very interesting elements within the math world that are supposed to be concrete and well understood, but they're not, and you can't prove them, and that leaves a lot of holes in it, and it makes it interesting and weird, mysterious. And so he draws upon this to build on more concepts of how math is used to communicate information, and how there's these interesting elements within math where you take very complex, compressed amounts of information to communicate something, right? You can use like one number as a compressed form of like a very, very big mathematical proof, right? So imagine all of those symbols on a whiteboard, like one of those crazy mathematical symbols on a whiteboard where somebody's doing all of these, crazy mathematical designs and stuff. And there's a way that you can take all of that information and compress it down to like a single number, right? And so he's using this mathematical sort of concept of how you can take things and transform them and turn symbols into these different sorts of representations of things. And so something small can mean something much bigger. And that's kind of part of what makes us human, is that our brain over time develops these very interesting abstractions of meaning, of very grand ideas, right? Like, what is a law? Well, if you explain to someone what a law is, then you kind of have to explain what government is, right? And you kind of have to explain, like, okay, well, then there's a society, and there's lots of stakeholders, and there's ways in which these things need to be done in a certain way, so that there's like expectations of how we exist together, and a law is just it's an idea, it's a concept, right? It's a symbol for something that is connected to a lot of other things, and a lot of those other things need to exist in order for a law to exist, right? And in our minds, we understand law, and we understand that it's connected to a lot of things, but we don't really think much about all those other things, right? Like they're just part of life. And so when somebody says, yeah, there's law, we usually intrinsically understand that, right? But if you go to another planet where maybe they have a different way of living, right? And you say, well, what are your laws? Well, maybe they don't even have that construct. Maybe they don't even have that understanding. So they'll say, well, what is a law? And you have to say, well, okay, well, there's rules, and sometimes people break those rules, and so we have these governing bodies that interpret rules that we all live by, and so you kind of have to explain all of these other things in order to explain what a law is, right? But for most of us, we don't have to uncompress all of that information to understand what a law is. Our minds build that and develop that over time as we're growing. And so we're able to communicate in these very distinct, discrete ways, right? Like if I say somebody broke the law, you understand all of the things that affects and that influences. And it's because we can do this stuff, right? Because our brains are so good at taking symbols and associating them with this vast array of relationship data and abstractions that actually makes us human. Like if you look at dogs, some dogs look into a mirror and they don't even realize it's them. You know, they think it's another dog. They can't process that's them. But we can. And so as we start to understand the world around us, we start to develop this sense of self, right? And so this is also another symbol. What is an I? When we say I, we're talking about this thing that is me, right? And so this is also a symbol. This is also a idea. It's a concept, right? Like when you're talking about a law, you're talking about all of this other stuff that needs to exist. But when you're also saying I, you're talking about this concept of you understanding yourself. What does I mean? Well, I is my life. It's my memories. It's the favorite color that I enjoy, and the relationships that you care about, and the experiences that you've had, and things you've gone through, right? Your hopes for the future, the things that you want to do in life, your goals. A dog doesn't have that, right? A dog isn't like, I want to be a firefighter one day, right? It's just kind of wakes up and it's like, well, let's play or let's eat, or its goals are very, very simple, and it's very its understanding of the world and the relationship of things around us is very, very simple as well. And so it never really develops this strong concept of an I. And this is something that we develop over time. We're not born with a strong sense of self. You know, babies, sometimes when you show them a mirror, they just start crying because they don't even understand what's going on or what they're looking at, right? But as they go older, they start to wiggle their face and to start to see that they are looking at themselves, right? And then over time, your brain starts to form even more, and you can start to think about the future, right? You can think about the past. You can start to plan things and have big dreams and concepts and long-term goals that you want to work towards. And you start to develop a sense of I, a sense of self, and that this is a looping experience. This is something that you will that will change over time in the same way that you develop it at some point and it gets stronger and bigger. It will be something that ends up changing as you get older. What does I mean? You know, when you look at a photograph that you cared about when you were younger, what it actually means when you're 20 or when you're 30 or when you're 40 is going to be totally different. And so that means that your sense of I, that your sense of self is different, and it's changing. It's an evolution. And that's normal. It's normal that these symbols that we have in our brain, that we have in our mind, are changing and evolving. And that this is a very interesting experience that not all creatures go through. There are other creatures that do have very high level functioning, that have very strong memories, that pass information on from generation to generation. Orcas, I think, are one of them. Elephants are also creatures that do seem to have these very strong senses of I, but obviously, you know, they can't plan for college. They can't plan for a lot of things that we do. They don't have concepts of computers or other very, very advanced things, right? They don't know how to manipulate and master the world around us in the same way that we do. And so this combination of having a strong understanding of the world around us, but also having a strong understanding of ourself and being able to master the two of them is what makes us very interesting, incredible creatures. But then it gets into, you know, very interesting stuff of like, maybe this is what the concept of a soul is your sense of self, your sense of the things around you, the sense of people around you, and their connection to you, and their relationship to you. And so it kind of talks about life and what like makes life meaningful, what makes some people big souls, and what makes people small souls. And so he kind of goes into his thoughts of very, very much pragmatically defining what a soul is. So it's very interesting, you know, that this is something that's talking a lot about very esoteric stuff in life. What are we? What does this all mean? How does it all happen? What is our perception of it? And he tries to use very concrete foundations in things like math to help shape the narrative and to help craft some of these ideas around his beliefs. So it's very, very interesting. I hope I interpreted most of it correct. I mean, even the book itself, you have to understand a lot of very esoteric things that very, very smart people spend their lives trying to understand. So I could be interpreting some of it wrong, but I Am a Strange Loop. It's a good book. What do you think about it? Hello? Hello? Oh, she's sleeping. I won. I'm so good. Oh, gosh. I'm gonna gloat so hard tomorrow when she wakes up. I knew it. Philosophy. Puts them to sleep every time. I win.